Yes. Oh.
Well, good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. For the record, Christy Enselman, Planning and Projects. I'm here to present on the Integrated 5-Year Plan, and I apologize throughout the presentation. I may be dabbing my eyes because the smoke and allergies are making me cry. It's not the 5-year work plan, I promise. Well, right now it's not making me cry. I reserve judgment to
don't hold your
cry
breath
as we continue. Okay. So you guys have seen this slide before. It just represents where we currently are at in the process. So today we're presenting on the initial draft. We'll be holding a public hearing tomorrow evening on the 15th at 5:30 here in the auditorium. And this will be a hybrid meeting, so you can attend in person or you can do it virtually via a Zoom link. And staff will be present to answer questions in both formats. And after which the comment period will be open, and that will go for 5 weeks through August 20th. Having a problem seeing. So the key takeaways for this draft plan, it shows investment in all modes of transportation. We continue to make progress towards a full build out of our networks, as well as continuing to identify new opportunities to invest in our community. This year we implemented 2 new strategies, the shelf strategy and the comprehensive maintenance strategy. They will allow us to be more responsive and flexible to revenue and delay changes. We've also upgraded our introduction and project sheets to be more user-friendly. So a little more on that shelf strategy. The goal of this strategy is to create a surplus of shovel-ready projects by significantly increasing the number of design projects in the plan. This will allow us to be flexible as needed. For example, if additional revenue sources become available or a construction project has to get delayed, which does happen, we would have other projects that would be ready to go that we could move up to begin construction. To accomplish this, we added approximately 150 projects to the program and created design groupings by geographic area. The groupings will be then contracted as one large project. A few examples are shown on the screen here. So we have the CUNA Improvement B group. So all of these would be grouped together under one contract, and they would all be designed in the same year. Right-of-way and construction would not necessarily be in the same years, as obviously we have to adjust depending on funding available for each year. But this is how we're grouping it, but it allows us to get larger contracts with more design projects together. And then our comprehensive maintenance strategy, the objective of this strategy is to create a more holistic approach to our maintenance improvement programs. For example, a corridor may have been identified as just needing pavement rehabilitation. However, that corridor may also need upgrades to the ADA facilities, driveway approaches, or there may be a missing sidewalk connection, critical connection, or the corridor may be designated as a future bikeway, or a partner agency or a neighborhood plan has identified the need for a crossing in that area. So our goal is to go in once to address all of the needs on that particular corridor. So the results from the annual report were once again utilized to help guide the programming of this year's integrated 5-year work plan. The draft includes an introduction that provides greater focus on how we're doing within each focus area, and they include major roads, pedestrian facilities, bike facilities, and ADA accessibility. Improving the major roads and intersection aids Ada County residents in many ways. It provides congestion relief and provides much needed connections for our bike, pedestrians, and ADA community. The plan includes a total of 133 lane miles, 50 intersection improvements, 30 of which are identified as congested locations. And with our complete streets policy, each of the roadway projects will include pedestrian and bike facilities, furthering those connections. With this update, we added 3 new intersections and 22 roadways. Through the annual report, the Boise Southwest area continues to be a hot spot of need. In this area, we added several additional segments of Amity Road to the plan. We've also added several roadway segments and intersections on Floating Feather Road between Palmer and Ballantyne. And we've also added segments of Ustick Road, as I'm sure you guys are aware, also with the Highway 16 project being accelerated. This is one of the main connections. So we've included all of the roadway and intersection segments out to there.
Christy?
Yes.
Are they listed as funded or unfunded?
Each of those are, some of them yes, some of them no.
Okay. But we haven't,
Some components of them yes, some of them no.
okay, we haven't included any new funded ones since we got the word from ITD, correct?
Fully funded, no, not within our budget years. So our budget years will be fiscal year 22 and 23. So none of those that we've added would be constructed. There's no way to get them constructed that fast. So they've all been added in design, right-of-way, and construction. Some are going to be in the out years, like the Ustick, Chief of Staff Daigle spoke about Ustick between 10 Mile and Black Cat. That one we would have design in 22, right-of-way 23, construction 24. So 24 is an out year.
Yep, well, that's all good. I just, personally, my preference was not even to design those past Black Cat until we've got things straightened out with the.
Yeah, those are in the out years. So they're not in funded years, but they've been added to the plan. And the map that's up there that's showing those gray lines, that's all future. So we don't have those in construction yet.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so bike facilities continue to be a focus of the plan. Currently, 24% of the population of Ada County are within a quarter mile of a completed low-stress bikeway network, and upon completion of this plan, that will increase to 59%. So that is a great jump if we are able to accomplish all of those. This year, we adopted the level of traffic stress model in June, and this standard that will guide us through project development. And the bike inventory is ongoing with a completion date of this fall. So we continue to make some great strides in our bike facilities. As you can see from this slide, we continue to complete critical sidewalk connections and add new ones to the plan in order to make this a walkable community. Filling key sidewalk gaps will continue to be completed through our roadway projects, community programs projects, and through our new comprehensive maintenance strategy.
Another question.
Yes.
Are any of these for this iteration of the 5-year work plan coming from the additional $5 million for community programs?
Yes, and I will get to that. You're jumping ahead, Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I try.
I know. We continue to improve ADA accessibility as well through our roads, intersections, community programs projects. We completed the inventory of our ADA facilities this year. What we found is that we're actually doing better than we thought, which is great. Currently, we're sitting at 186 completed APS signals, which is an increase of 15 from the annual report. And this year's plan has 120 APS signals programmed, which is an increase of 22 from the annual report, and it almost doubles what we had programmed last year. And before I start talking about this, do you need a copy, Steve? Okay, so community programs, I want to touch briefly on the plan and where we currently stand with regards to community program projects. Currently, there are 229 total community program projects, 115 of which are core, 81 are VRF, and 22 are bikeway projects. And I just gave you a handout with regards to that additional $5 million and the projects that we were able to accelerate either through construction or design into fiscal year 22.
A question, Christy.
Yes.
When we adopted that, or authorized that additional $5 million, it was to be spread out geographically among the districts. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as having happened here.
we're limited sometimes on which projects we're able to accelerate.
Okay, well, we need to deal more closely with the commission then, because that was a serious point to make in authorizing that, was the distribution.
And we did geographically, you'll see, especially with the design projects, there's a lot of concept and design that we added into this program.
Understand, but that's only 10% of the 5 million.
One project can take a large chunk. Most of our community programs projects are not small ticket
Okay,
items.
we know that. And
Yes.
the commission would love to have input on these. And we have time, just as we did 2 years ago when we started the GAP projects. I think we can come to some different, I'm not saying better or worse, but different list of projects for construction in 2022, even if they have to be scoped first and things like that.
Yeah, and just as you look at the number, we have over almost 12 million total in community programs that
I understand
are in
that.
fiscal year 22 that were.
There was a reason for adding the additional 5 million. And truly, again, and not to be harping on it, but I'll harp on it, it was to be distributed geographically.
Okay, and this is a draft too, so if
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
projects that
I just didn't want to
commission
get to
would
the
like to
very end
move
of
up,
the
then-
end of the road and say, oops, red light here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Mix some sheets up. We also wanted to give a status update to where we're at with our neighborhood plan projects. Of the 13 currently adopted, there are a total of 1,045 bike and ped projects that were identified in those plans. 301 of those have been completed to date, and we have another 303 that are programmed in this draft. And then upon build out of the projects in this plan, we'll be close to 60% completion of our adopted neighborhood plans, which is a great number. We're making really good strides in that one. So for public involvement, we continue to be committed to involving the public and welcome their comments during the integrated 5-year work plan draft open comment period. To help accomplish this, we would once again have a robust public outreach effort, starting with the public open house tomorrow at 5:30 here in the auditorium. Again, it will be open to the public as well as available via a Zoom link. The comment period will go for 5 weeks through August 20th. We also conduct social media outreach through Nextdoor, Twitter, Facebook, as well as we reach out to our partner agencies and our neighborhood groups. Staff is also being presenting to all of our advisory committees. I presented to our ADA committee yesterday, and we'll have the rest of them in the next couple weeks completed. And of course, the plan and interactive map will also be available on our website, which is a great tool to provide comments on the plan. I did want to draw attention to the new and improved project list format that we utilized this year. So this year, we wanted to use imagery that would quickly and easily convey what different types of improvements each project will complete. We grouped them by neighborhood planning area like we did last year. We have the project name, project type, and construction year, and then we have several columns that identify what improvement types will be included with each project using icons representative of the improvement type. And then again, the interactive map will be available. And when we say interactive map, it's completely interactive. You can zoom into a particular area, and all of the projects that are in the plan are represented by points and lines and polygons. And you can click on any one of those. You'll get a pop-up like shown on the screen that will give you more information about each project. It gives the project name, project description, who the project manager is assigned to it, what the design, right-of-way, and construction years are currently planned for each of those programs, the project number, and then there's also a link that view additional project information, and when you click on that, you get another pop-up. It's a one-page summary of each of those projects, which gives some cost breakdown of what that particular project costs. This one doesn't show it, but this afternoon we'll have the interactive map live for the 22-26 program, and that will have a link where you can provide comments on the plan or on a project specific, and you can do it directly from that pop-up. So you just click on a link and you'll answer a few questions on and rate it. Do you like this project? Do you not like this project? And you also have an opportunity, the public has the opportunity to provide additional feedback on the plan itself. So we get to next steps on where we're at in our process. So again, open house tomorrow. Comment period opens today and closes on the 20th. Budget will be for you on August 25th for the adoption. We will come back to you after the comment period closes on the 20th and do a review of what we received from the public and our partner agencies on September 1st. And then we will be back to you on September 22nd for the adoption of the integrated 5-year work plan, and I will stand for any questions.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have some questions for Christy on this. Christy, a few months ago, you showed us a, excuse me, a chart showing a breakdown of expenses that ACHD was, and categories in which they went, and I had asked specifically, what proportion of our funds are we spending on roadways versus bicycle, pedestrian facilities, and so on. And my recollection is that we showed something like 40% of our capital improvement budget was going to bicycle and pedestrian facilities, about 20% of the overall. Under the current programming and the proposed budget, what's being considered now, where does that stand? Where is that proportion?
Mr. President, Commissioner McKinney, I could run those numbers for you and I'd be happy to provide that to you. My best guess is we'd be similar to that 40%. It may be slightly over because we did add some design projects in for that new shelf strategy project or strategy. But yeah, it'd still be a close to 40%. A lot of those are accomplished through our roadway projects. So each time we add a new arterial roadway to the plan, it's also including bikes, peds, all of those facilities.
Right.
So that's part of where that proportion comes from, is every road and intersection project also adds value to our.
Right, my understanding is that about half is in the roadway projects and the other half is in our community programs. Is that fair?
Roads and intersections probably take up a bigger percentage. I think
Okay.
it's still close to that 60-40%,
Okay.
the plan.
Because I have to admit, and this is my impression here, it's not that these things aren't worthwhile and important, it's that they kind of go tangent to our primary mission. Our, ACHD's mission is to build and maintain highways. That's why it's the Ada County Highway District and not the Ada County Bicycle and Pedestrian District. And while those things are worth doing, my impression is that, spending 40% of our budget on those facilities is a little bit out of whack. I would like to see a budget where we scale that down to somewhere between 20 and 30% and take the other funds and put them into highway, put them into more highway improvement, intersection improvement projects, because that's where the greatest need is. And so that's my opinion. I'd like to see some some proposed modifications to our budget that would push us in that direction, because that's what I would like to see. Another question about the, and this goes back to the 5-year work plan, is the our criteria for ranking projects in the 5-year work plan. I know we talked about that and we had a presentation on that a little while ago. And my impression is that, well, here's my position. I think in our criteria, the two overriding criteria in deciding what projects to build need to be traffic volume and current level of service. If you've got, 2 intersections that are at level of service F, and one has, 5,000 cars a day and the other has 50,000, then of course the higher traffic volume should get a higher priority. But as I look at our criteria, we've got like, a dozen different criteria, and only 1 or 2 of them relate to vehicle volumes and level of service. In fact, I don't think I recall that level of service itself is even considered directly in our criteria. And I think that is an oversight. I think our criteria ought to focus on that first, and then use other criteria sort of as, helping us to, among those, once we score them on level of service and traffic volume, that gives us our first take. And then the other criteria about, connections to bikeways and so on and so forth can help us to reorder those and distinguish between them. But still the priority, I think, needs to be on that. And so I would like to revisit that at some point to really talk about those criteria, because I'm not sure that we're really focusing on, I think maybe we're focusing a little bit too much on ancillary issues, not enough on the core issues. And that's my opinion on this. And Paul?
Mr. President, Commissioner, the staff is here to serve the commission. We will take direction from the commission if you'd like us to do that. If the majority of the commission sends us in that direction, we will be glad to do that. We react to what the majority of the commission asks us to do. We're here to serve. So.
At the very least, and for my other fellow commissioners, I would request that we take the opportunity in the near future to look specifically at the ranking criteria for our 5-year work plan and consider possible adjustments to that and talk about that, because that's something I think needs to be done. All right, and then related to, let me see here, I need to check and see because I've got a number of questions. Oh, and so then when it comes to, and as we're talking about bicycle and pedestrian things, the new multi-use pathway plan, I'm still a little bit unclear on what the standard presumptions are and the standard, what that standard is now. And so I'd be happy to talk about that in a future commission meeting to be clear about exactly what we're proposing, what these multi-use pathways are going to look like. And I know we have some questions from other agencies about that, but I would like to look at that and consider, what is the cost effect, if any, in going to the multi-use pathways as opposed to the on-street bike lanes. Okay. And I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. I did want to follow up on your concerns with regards to roads and intersections. So the plan currently meets and exceeds the targets set by the commission for both of those categories. So we're not currently underfunding either of those. So the targets that the commission has set for our capital improvement projects, those are being met through this plan.
Sure. And I guess what I'm kind of saying is that I'm not sure that those targets are in the right place.
And again,
I think we ought to
that's
reconsider
something
where
as
those
the
targets are.
commission, if they direct otherwise, then we can change those for sure.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Christie?
Now you're really just making me cry. No, I'm just kidding. It's not my allergies anymore. I'm just joking.
Wait till she goes to CUNA on Thursday.
Oh.
When is the best time during the year, during our processes, to discuss that type of potential change?
Mr. President, we come to you routinely throughout the year. We specifically have those items as a subject to bring to you. We come to talk to you about targets. We come to talk to you about prioritization. And so those are the best times to talk to us if you want changes to that. At this stage in the process,
Will you go back your slide?
I don't know if I can with this. With just my.
What I was going to suggest is that the next time we have an opportunity to discuss those priorities, that we should put this particular topic on the agenda. Is that okay, Dave?
And so when's that likely going to be?
Oh, Christie probably has some kind of idea.
Yeah, so we come and talk to you when we came to talk to you about our programming targets in March of this year. We talked to you about prioritization in April. If you want to have that conversation earlier, I'm happy to do that. At this stage of the integrated 5-year work plan, I think it's something that we can look at for next year's update, trying to get target changes into this plan or prioritization changes, because that's months, just the prioritization alone is months long worth of work for staff, and that was not just myself. And There was several of us working on that for several months. So I am very happy to bring these items back to the commission for their consideration if they want to make changes. I would respectfully ask that we not make those changes for this particular adoption because we're close.
You know, every time, and there's been several times over the last 6 years that I can put my thumb on, that we have asked similar type of prioritization or process change questions. And we've always agreed so far that it needed to happen as you have just described in the next iteration. And that's how we got the gap projects going. That's, you know, so I don't see anything wrong with that myself. And if the majority of the commission doesn't either, then I think that's how we should handle it. Because like you said, if we put the brakes on this right now, it ain't going to happen within this timeline.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I appreciate what you're saying about where we are in the budget process for this particular budget, and I recognize that. Nevertheless, I think this discussion that we're talking about, it's better to have it sooner rather than later.
Right.
So,
But are you meaning to say that maybe we should adjust our budget targets by that right now for
this budget?
Yes.
well, as you say, I'm not sure that we could.
Yeah, and I'm sure we
that's opening a
can't.
can of
That's the thing,
worms.
yeah.
There just isn't time to deal with that right now. But looking forward, I think it doesn't hurt to start looking forward earlier. So that's what I'm saying.
That would be a good idea then, because that'll help, if nothing else, it'll help the level of understanding of all of us, and a repeat of, for some of us, which is always good, of what the process is designed to accomplish, how it happens, the steps, and take it from there. But we can start that as early as you can integrate that into our work sessions without interrupting what we're doing right now.
Mr. President, yes, if that's the direction of the commission, I'm happy to set those up. We can do those this
That okay?
fall and kind of,
Thank you.
absolutely. I will get it done.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Christy, I have a question for you. Thanks
Yes.
for your presentation. What kind of public comment are you seeking to receive from the public? If you could just kind of give me some parameters around that.
Mr. President, Commissioner Pickering, anything and everything, as long as they're respectful.
Of
We do get
course.
some- anything. We love the public. Generally, what we see a lot is people's, if they're supportive of a project, if they would like to see something accelerated, they let us know. If we have things, obviously, if we can move things, we certainly can. But we generally get some good feedback from our partner agencies, either in support of the plans that we've programmed, or again, if there's something accelerated or pushed back, or they would prefer this project over that project, or this needs to happen first, or is there some way that we can group these projects together, which we always try to do, but sometimes we miss the mark. There was one that was brought to my attention yesterday. I was like, we should have grouped those together. That would have been a great grouping. But those kinds of comments. We do get requests for new projects during this process as well. And we have a lot of avenues in which they can do that. They can do it through the interactive map. They can do community programs application, where we get a little more buy-in from the property owners that would be immediately affected. So yes, anything and everything.
Christy, what happens with those requests for new projects?
Those projects are compiled and evaluated, and then we bring those back to you in September for another presentation. And we go through, this is what we receive from the public. And generally it helps us with our programming. Like last year, a lot of the projects that we received, there was a lot of focus on bike improvements. And so there were several that were added in response to that, and there was a little bit more of a focus, and that was something we brought to you. The City of Star had a really great letter that they sent to us. They would like to see some of their projects accelerated. We were able to do that with the commission's approval to do so. So yes, it's very helpful, and then you get to see what we're hearing from the public on those plans. And we generally, during this process in the open comment period, when the initial draft has been released, we generally get a really good response from the public. I think we had over 100, I don't know if we quite got to 150 individual comments on the interactive map last year, which was great. That's what we want.
Perfect, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Two things along that. Christie had just mentioned what happened with the city of Star, and Mary will remember that because she walked that thing through perfectly. But this is what I had just intimated we should be doing with that additional $5 million spread geographically. And so that will be up to each individual commissioner to take a look at the 5-year work plan or any other series of or separate project that they have in mind that they might need to have staff look at seriously to possibly replace something that's here right now. And as you receive or see these requests for projects, understand that they go through our scoring process, correct?
Yes, I mean,
Yep.
everything that's in the plan went through the prioritization process
And-
already,
And
yes.
so if you as a commissioner have any other ideas about those projects, you need to shepherd those projects possibly a little bit better. That's my word, no one else's. Because if it's a priority for you, it needs to be made known to staff and the reasons behind it and everything else so that it doesn't muck up the scoring process that we have, or that you can, as a commissioner, put that forth to the staff and the rest of us in a constructive, positive way that, I mean, we're commissioners for a reason. We do make the final decisions. And I would suggest that this is the time to remember that.
Yeah, and
And
Mr.
here
President.
comes Steve. I said something wrong.
Oh, no. Hold on a second.
No, you didn't.
Okay, good.
No, that will be, before the commission next week will be a resolution on the $5 million dedication
Right.
for community programs. The reason we haven't had all the here.
Sure. Well, we saw that resolution one time that you gave it to us, and that's when we said, hey, take it away.
Yeah, I tweaked it a little bit based upon the input that I got at the time, but I just want you to know it'll be on the agenda next week so you can talk about it then.
Still has the geographical aspects to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just what you said.
And Mr. President, yeah, the prioritization also is just one component when we're developing this program. It's not the end all. If something is ranked higher than something through our prioritization, but it's a higher rank for our partner agency, or the commission wants something added to the program or accelerated, that's certainly, it's flexible. We want it to be
I
flexible.
have seen that in the past, so
Yes,
that's why
we
I
try.
was reminding us all. Yeah.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I have one more question, Christie, sorry, before you go, because this discussion reminded me of it. One thing that I would like to see in considering our 5-year work plan are the ranking requests of other agencies. I know the City of Meridian, City of Boise, and other agencies submit, here's what we think you ought to prioritize.
Right.
I'd like to be able to see those, and maybe they're available and I just haven't found them, but I'd like to see those to be able to consider those as we're considering the overall plan.
Yeah, Mr. President, Commissioner Pickering, absolutely. Those were provided to the commission much earlier in the year because their deadline to submit those. We made the request last November for them to submit their request. They had a target date of February 25th or 24th, which everybody got theirs in, and we sent those to all the commission. I'm more than happy to share those with you.
Yeah, if you would maybe send those again, I'd like to look
Yep.
at them. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you.
No kidding.
It was. Yeah. Yeah, we went started a little earlier. We gave them a little more time, and even our new partner agency got theirs in on time. So VRF even submitted theirs by the deadline, even though we came to them late. So it made my life a little easier. I could breathe a little easier when I got them all in on time.
Great job, Chrissy.
Oh,
Commissioners, I just wanted to highlight Christie's hard work on this effort. It's a lot. There's a lot of projects that go into this. We've seen an exponential increase in project requests over the last 5 years, from hundreds to, as you can see, thousands in some categories. And so we do our best to put all this together and bring it to you for your feedback, and we love your feedback, and thank you so much. I did want to highlight, the project process starts with an idea. We have to go out and get a cost estimate, figure out what the project is. Oftentimes, we have to buy right-of-way, and that process takes time, especially when it comes to if there's a seller who's not interested in selling and we have formal processes to go through, and then we're able to go into the construction phase. The low-hanging fruit primarily has been picked in Ada County when it comes to GAP projects, specifically when it comes to sidewalk projects. Most of what's left requires right-of-way, requires a full engineering design. Typically, there's ADA issues, et cetera, et cetera. So we do our best to work as fast as we can, but sometimes it's extremely difficult to take a project idea that we hear about in one year and go to construction the next year. It's extremely difficult to do that unless all the stars align perfectly and there's no right-of-way and there's no irrigation and there's no all of the details that go into the project management process. So just want to raise that to the commission. As those ideas come in, we'll transparently bring that back to you and say, got it, here's the timeline we believe it takes to actually accomplish the project that is being
I
requested.
remember that really well.
Yes. So, and when it comes in, and that plays into the $5 million or additional monies that the commission puts forward, and we certainly, Commission President Goldthorpe, understand the concept of geographic equity. The issue we face sometimes is, as was discussed, we don't have a lot of projects sitting there shovel-ready, perfectly distributed across the county. And to spend $5 million, much of that has to come in construction because that's the big dollar amount. And sometimes we'll bring that back to you and show it to you. Our first take was the list that you received today. Obviously, that can be modified and changed per the commission's direction. But I just wanted to raise that as we go through this discussion in the next several weeks.
Justin, and I know Paul's going to keep me honest on this, because he was involved. He was kind of the front guy for all my comments and questions for those first GAP projects. We had $3 million to spend with that first GAP project budget item. It took us, about 2.5 years to spend that $3 million. So I would not remind, but let the commission know that that stretching out process because of design, right-of-way, and everything else should be at the back of our minds when we make suggestions on that geographic equity portion of things.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding.
Yeah, and Commissioners, Commission President, thank you for bringing that up. Typically, what we've done in years past with those types of categories is we bring you a rolling average of here's what we did, not just in 1 year, but over 3 years or 5 years, because it helps to explain the picture a little more clearly. Because there may seem in 1 year an imbalance, but if you average it out over 3 or 4 years, when you have construction in one part and then a construction in another part of the county, it seems to average out pretty nicely, as you've seen in the annual reports that we do for geographic equity. So we'll continue to bring that information back to you and do our best to meet those goals.
And just in case anybody worries about this, and I did several years ago, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. That's not the case with our staff. They stay on top of it really well, better than I probably would have personally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. He always says it much more eloquently than I do. And you've only given me a few gray hairs. Don't have nearly as many. Yeah, and that's also something the shovel-ready strategy will help us with too. We'll be able to pull a lot more design in and have those projects ready that we could move forward if we're able to. Anything else? All right.
Outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Oh, we're good. Oh, Christy, thank you so much.
Commissioners, as the teacher says, open your books to page 95, and we will continue.
Very close to my face. I'll move it back. I gotta get set up. I need
Mr. President,
Yes.
at the outset of this session on the budget, I do have a couple of questions. I wonder if just kind of right at the beginning, we could touch on those and then jump into the numbers. Would that be all right? Some sort of preliminary questions.
Okay.
One relates back to last week's meeting and the information that, Christine, that you sent out regarding the impact on property taxes with respect to the different options we've considered regarding the foregone. And my question, and I have exchanged some emails with other members of the commission about this. This is excellent information about the the property tax impact for those different options on different value ranges for properties. What I'm wondering, what I would like to see is this same information but tabulated in a way that takes into account, number one, the appreciation in value over the past year. For example, someone who had a $400,000 house last year, now it may have an assessed value of $500,000. So that individual homeowner, what's going to be the impact they'll see on their bottom line on their property tax bill? So because that's going to be a relevant factor, even though the mill rate, even though the levy rate goes down, an individual may see their actual tax dollar go up. So I want to take that into account. At the same time, and Commissioner Goldthorpe mentioned this to me, and I think it's a perfectly appropriate.
Was that in my email
Yeah,
reply?
your response email. I don't know if you saw the emails that went back and forth. Okay. Commissioner Goldthorpe pointed out, yes, we also need to consider, though, the effects of cost increases and inflation on the district. Because even though, if we were to keep everything the same so that nobody saw any increase in property taxes, we would be seeing a net deficit because our costs are going up. So if we take into account, these two factors point in opposite directions, the one, the increase in property values, and the other being the increase in costs. But I think we need to take those both into account to give an accurate full picture so that we can, see the picture, so that the public can see it as we're considering the different options that we have with respect to our property tax revenue. Okay. So that's number one. Item number two.
Can I respond to that real
Yes.
quickly? So when you want to see the changes from assessed value, I don't do the assessments. How do you want me to say that your house was 400 last year and 500 this year?
Right.
So
No,
this is your property tax.
I
change?
wonder if
I don't know how to do that.
I wonder if perhaps we could contact the county assessor's office, and they have some statistics that say on average property values in Ada County last year went up this much, and they can give us maybe a percentage rate. And if we use that and say, okay, this is the average, so that so we take those price points and then we take into account that. And I'm glad Steve is coming up. Go ahead and say what you have to say, because I have an additional question for you.
Commissioner, I believe that Mr. McQuaid testified that on average, though, the tax increase will be about 26% throughout the county.
You mean the value increase?
Yep.
The assessed.
Okay, all right. So yeah, let's verify that, and I think we're perfectly justified in using that number from the assessor's office. Okay, and item number two, and this is kind of, and Steve, maybe you're the one to say, maybe Christine can explain it. There's absolutely lots of discussion in the public, among legislators, among the general public, about this foregone amount. And I have no doubt we're going to get questions from the media and from others about this, about taking additional property tax revenues. I would like, both for my sake and for members of the public, a concise explanation of what is the foregone.
What is it?
What is it? When we say we're considering taking this foregone amount, what are we talking about? Because, I want to be able to have a very clear answer that I can give to people who ask that question. And at the moment, I'm not entirely sure that I can give them that really clear answer.
Absolutely, Mr. President, Commissioner McKinney. Foregone is, it's essentially property tax value in certification that you have not taken in the past. So there were several years during the recession when ACHD could have taken 3% increase plus the new construction row value, and we took neither. And at that time, that money automatically went into foregone.
Meaning that we were entitled to take it later.
We were entitled to take it later, right? So you'll hear the word drawback or clawback, and we're going back and taking revenue we could have taken 10 or 12 years ago, and we're taking it now. it's not affected anyone, but now it is.
And the total amount of that is around $10 million.
It is, right. So there's a, I
And
do
is that
have
a one-time, that's just a one-time thing?
No, that's over several years, and I can get the breakdown for you. It's about $2.5 million related to new construction roll. We have taken that more years than we have taken the 3% increase. I will say that with that, last year the change happened at the legislature that if you're not taking the 3% or new construction roll, which ACHD chose not to, you had to certify a resolution at the public hearing to put that money into foregone. So the $10.1 million we have excludes the amount that we did not take last year because the commission elected not to reserve that amount.
Last year's,
How you doing?
we did not increase our foregone last year.
Because they chose not to put, they said, we're not gonna take the 3%, we're not gonna take the new construction roll, and we don't plan on ever taking it in the future, so we're not adding it to our foregone.
Okay.
City of Boise did not take 3%, did not take their new construction roll, now has a $4.1 million foregone balance that they can use because they did save that money.
Okay. So this is past property tax revenue increases that we
Allowable.
elected not to take,
Correct.
but the law allowed us to say, we'll reserve the ability to take these later.
Up until last year, it was just automatically said, okay, we'll save this for you, we'll save this for you, and the tax commission manages that. And then last year, there was a bill that went through that said, no, we're not gonna automatically add it to your foregone. You have to say specifically through resolution that you wanna add it to your foregone balance.
Okay, and so last year, this commission did not elect to add that
Correct,
to the foregone balance.
Well,
correct.
the last commission didn't.
Right, okay, yeah, the previous commission, okay. All right, then let's move ahead.
It's tough, it's a lot. All right. As Paul mentioned, we'll turn to page 95. So 95 has shown a pie chart of just the capital budget broken up into the various categories. I will note that at the top, the purple color between stormwater and roadways should be miscellaneous. That's for our site development. I had a corruption in my file that Paul noticed. So in the updated packet, that will show it is 8% of the total. But as you can see, roadways and intersections are about 30% of the total. Cooperative development, these are projects that we do alongside developers, and we pay for some improvements that they're doing. It allows us to get projects done more quickly because they're doing them as they're developing their parallel parcels.
Mr. President?
Mhm.
Christine, could you clarify? Sorry, I didn't catch that. So you're saying stormwater and roadways should be combined under miscellaneous or
sorry.
just stormwater?
No, between stormwater and roadways in the pie chart,
Yes.
that
Oh,
label,
that purple, that dark
label
purple.
is not there.
Gotcha,
right.
thank you.
And then roadways and intersections are our CIP projects. I apologize. And I will note, there are going to be changes. This is a very fluid budget. On the capital side, one of the projects that's currently shown in FY22 for construction is Locust Grove Victory to Overland. We are pushing that to FY23. That is not currently reflected in this budget. It happened after I finished these packets. So that will be something. All of these changes, any of the major changes that are done in the budget will be in the updated packet that you will receive early August. And those changes will be called out. I'll do a memo of all those changes that are called out. So as we bring in, if we're able to bring in more design projects, anything that's changing on the capital side and on the operational side will be called out. So that you don't just have to look for those needles, those changes within the packet.
Christine? So if, for instance, we decide on some changes to the way the $5 million for additional dollars for community programs is spent, we should let you know quickly through the 5-year integrated work plan process that we just described.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. President, that's correct. And Christy and I work very closely together. the first 2 years of the integrated 5-year work plan are obviously high on my radar so that I can make sure that we adopt a balanced budget. And then, so we work very closely as she gets those changes and we make them in our system. I'm able to notice what they are and to call them out. Excuse me. Okay, on the next page, page 96, this is just a summary sheet showing the top group. These are what we call project phases. Right-of-way design, right-of-way construction are our 3 biggest. We also have the traffic materials, concept design, our 2 others that are greater than $1 million. Concept design, we are doing more concept design projects. Some of the ones that we're seeing are those where we're doing the corridors, the grouping of projects. We're kind of trying to see, okay, if we do this, then we'll break them out into their individual projects, but we just kind of don't know what exactly we're getting into right there. And then below are the categories. As you can see, these are broken out. Again, the miscellaneous is for our site development, both for the Franklin and Ustick yards. Tentative plans.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Christine, on this page, just a couple of questions. I noticed that concept design, I presume that these 2 different tabulations of our capital improvement budget, one is looking at it by phase and the other by category. Is that,
Correct.
Is that what we're doing? Okay. But concept design shows up in both. That was a little confusing to me.
We do call that out because within the concept, we're not 100% sure where all of those costs for those future projects are going to fall. They could fall in roadways, in community programs, in bridges. We're just not 100% sure, so we want to call that out kind of as its own separate, it's like pre-design.
Okay, I see. All right. And so then I notice legal fees is listed in the upper one as 0, but we have numbers for previous years.
Right, so we hope to not have legal fees. But again, it depends on which projects that come up. We have some years when we have really high legal fees, depending on the projects that we're working through. They go through the condemnation process.
Yeah, wouldn't it be prudent to have kind of a presumption of a certain amount? Because I admit, nobody likes paying lawyers, and I'm a lawyer myself. But the reality is that there's a reasonable chance that every year you're going to have some legal fees. It would make sense, in my mind, to have a number there as an assumption. And then, looking down at the bottom chart, well, 2 questions. I noticed that we have that miscellaneous category, but it shows nothing for previous years.
Right, so in previous years, in FY20, okay, so in FY20, we purchased the land, but you're an accountant also. We changed how we're categorizing those into a different department. So I will add that to the FY20 actuals, the land that we've purchased on that. In FY21, we have had very minimal expenses related to those projects.
Mr. President, Commissioner McKinney, on the legal fees and the allocation on a per project basis, it's really hard because we have so many projects, and the number of projects that we have, the percentage of us expending legal fees is the number of projects is very small. What we do is we make a budget adjustment whenever we get into a dispute, and then at that budget adjustment, we include the anticipated fees at that time, as opposed to just projecting right when we first adopt the budget.
Okay, so instead of projecting a likely amount or trying to guess what it is, you go
We
on
wait,
the
we
mode
wait,
of
and then
make
we
changes
budget
later.
based upon that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And then there's some disputes like a salt shed that come directly out of my budget, which is not tied to a project.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, Christine, that very bottom line, facilities, what does that relate to, and why is it 0 when in past years it had a number?
That is the building of our stormwater building, our stormwater lab and storage facility that's out here that we built a couple years ago.
Okay.
Kind of happened before we started buying land for the site development, so I'm still working through combining all those.
So it was kind of a one-time thing, that's why it shows up in
Yeah.
a past year and
Yep.
not in these?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, it was the design and construction of that stormwater building, which allowed us to move out of all the several
Okay,
locations out there.
all right, thanks.
Christine,
Yep.
could you also describe what cooperative/development means?
Yeah, I actually will ask Gary to. I could probably stumble through it, but he'll do it much more eloquently.
Besides, if she stumbles at all, she loses a bet. This is kind of,
Oh, wait,
I know, but you know, it's the stump Christine. Doesn't want to be stumped.
Mr. President, Commissioner Pickering, the cooperative category there is when a large development comes in, sometimes we'll partner with them. You'll see those cooperative development agreements come on the commission agenda. Recent examples are the extension of Lake Hazel and Orchard through Syringa. That was done through a CDA, a couple $1 million to build that roadway in advance of the subdivision. We currently have multiple that are going to come to fruition next year. That's why it's so much money and projected in next year's budget. The Lake Hazel Locust Grove intersection with the Brighton development down there, as well as extending both roads on all four legs, a quarter mile in every direction. We had several others out in the Dry Creek Ranch that are using our extraordinary impact fees, and several others that are using that category. And then we also have a separate budget item that isn't impact fee eligible. That's just much smaller. It's usually around $300,000, where we'll partner with developments on smaller improvements to extend a sidewalk or fix an existing problem on a roadway while they're there working. It saves us a lot of time and money.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so on pages 97 through I think 105 are all of the projects individually listed. I'm not going to read them all to you. I won't. Is there any in here that specifically the commission wants to talk about? Again, the 2 years of the budget are the first 2 years of the integrated 5-year work plan. This is just a different view of the projects that Christy presented in the integrated 5-year work plan.
So I would urge the commissioners that if they see anything they want to address in the 5-year work plan, that they also address it here.
Yeah. And again, as Christy mentioned, we will have our public open house tomorrow evening. Plans. Updated budget will come early August. That same time that I hand you that, I will bring to you a draft publication. Has to go to the paper prior to budget adoption. So I will bring that to you for your review prior to sending it to the Idaho Press.
Mr. President, Christine, looking through these, I'm wondering, it would be helpful for me, these different types of projects are divided into different categories. It would be helpful for me to see a subtotal for each of those categories. For example, we've got major bridges, then minor bridges, then, you know, these different things. I'd like to see that. It would help me to, you know, get everything kind of in, see the proportions of where these things stand.
Mr. President, Commissioner, those are on this sheet as well. On page 96, those categories are reflective.
Well,
The bottom, in the by category.
right, 96 are the major categories, but we've also got, yeah, minor categories. Like I say, under, well, for example,
Bridges.
yeah, bridges is the first one that comes up. We've got the total bottom line of, what was that, 6 million something? Or is it 9? Anyway,
Okay.
Christine, do we still have, as part of the 5-year work plan that used to be available to us and maybe still is, I'm just checking, where the projects also have their price tags attached to them for the different phases?
Do we still have, okay, say that one more time.
I'm remembering a few years ago, we used to get a big thick document that was the 5-year integrated work plan. And as part of that, we saw spreadsheets with the different projects and their anticipated dates for like design, concept, right-of-way acquisition, construction. Do we still have that available?
Yes, President Goldthorpe.
Because I like the pictures that
Yeah.
came up for this year, but I also like the price tags.
Yes, so at the direction of the commission, we have really tried to make the integrated 5-year work plan, the document, as public-friendly as possible with the metrics and the statistics and those kinds of things, obviously the project lists. We can absolutely provide you with a detailed accounting by phase of the entire integrated 5-year work plan.
That would be helpful as
yes,
we
yes.
kind of make our own
Yes.
decisions about things.
That's great, and we can provide you by phase, by year, and the dollar amount. And on that note, that is the type of feedback that is most helpful for staff, to be honest, is when, let's say you see a project with a design year in '24, and you could look at that and go, that's too long, I want that sooner. And that's one of your initiatives. You bring that forward to the commission, we discuss it, and we could potentially bring that design year sooner at the direction of the commission.
Especially
Now,
if you tell staff where the money's going to come from.
Exactly, it's all connected, but those are the types of things that we have done many times in the past, and that's the type of specific feedback that we're able to respond very easily to. It's harder for us to respond to especially from the public, well, I want this constructed next year, when there's not even a design year identified in the integrated 5-year work plan, and we don't even have a cost estimate. It's more challenging for staff to respond quickly to that type of feedback, because it requires some work to go out, get a cost estimate, because we want to make sure that we're putting realistic costs with projects. Years and years ago, we would kind of use a thumbnail, well, it's this many lineal feet of sidewalk, and we're just going to use this cost estimate. What we have found is that methodology is not good for the district, because each project is so specific with its irrigation impacts, right-of-way impacts, and other impacts. We really like to do a scoping effort to get that cost estimate nailed down, so we're not over promising what we can do, or that the commission really has an idea of specifically the dollar amounts that you're committing to with a project. And so we've worked really hard on that. But we'll provide that to you, and that's the kind of thing that we would love to hear. And we hear it from the public, we love to hear it from commissioners, and that's how really a project advances, is when it's in and out year, it's identified as a higher priority than however staff shook it out for whatever reason, and that project is then moved forward and we get it designed. Once you start design, you get the ball rolling, you get the right-of-way acquisition process programmed, and it's a lot easier to get to construction. If we haven't designed something, it's very difficult to construct it.
Thanks, Justin. Just another reason why the next few weeks we ought to be busy as commissioners.
Mr. President?
Yes.
If I may, kind of on this same topic, all these charts that we've got here that list all these projects and the different budget categories and so on, I noticed that they're listed in alphabetical order, and I think that's, under each subcategory. What I'd like to see is have them listed in priority order in each subcategory. Is that possible? I would think that in the spreadsheet you could fairly easily, is there a column for the priority rank? Or could that be added? Because part of the reason I ask is that I'd like to look at these projects and say, okay, here are the ones that have our top priority. In considering whether there are others that I'd like to push to be advanced, it helps to be able to see that as I'm looking at them.
Isn't that already done in our CIP? Kinda.
Mr. President, Commissioner McKinney, by the time it enters the budget, the priority, the specific priority from the commission adopted prioritization, that's primarily a tool we're using in the integrated 5-year work plan to bring projects into the plan. By the time it's in a budget year, there's been a pretty major commitment to that project. I mean, we could probably provide that information for some categories, but we don't have it necessarily for roadways and intersections specifically. We have a clear prioritization system that can rank them, and most of the ones in the budget are going to be your top priorities. But we can provide you the overall prioritization list. We can provide you with the cities there, because there's a city priority, there's the ACHD technical priority, and then there's the kind of commission priority, which is what gets into the plan and what gets into the budget.
Okay, so then maybe that's what I need to do, is go back and look at the entire 5-year plan that's prioritized already, that's listed that way. Maybe that's the thing to do.
And
was
Commissioner,
kind of
the
the
time
one
to
I
do
was
that
asking for.
is, to bring something into the integrated 5-year work plan, and I'd say starting about year 3, because as Justin pointed out, and as Christine is going to tell you, at this point in time, the next year's budget is set in stone. The following year's budget it's jello, but it's getting firmer. But the time to start looking at the priorities and maybe rearranging these things is 3, 4, and 5.
Right, okay.
Thank you, commissioners. I was just pausing to see if there's any other questions. I'm glad there's not, to be honest. And just to highlight that timeline one more time, the feedback process, we love to do it with the cities, the public, and the commission all together, so that when we come back to you, we're bringing you the full picture. When we receive feedback much later than that, we're in a reactionary mode, and it's hard for us to bring, we're then reshuffling the deck, as you might say. So as soon as you can, whatever you feel is appropriate per the window that Christy provided, we would love to hear any specific feedback you have about those project phases, when you believe they should be higher, and we'll bring a summary back to the commission.
I will say one last thing on this myself, and that is just this year it dawned on me, and it was probably after quite a few meetings and a pretty lengthy period of time, that, and Commissioner Hansen mentioned this as well, some of what he has been talking to staff as well as the commission and other entities about has started to appear on the plate, as it were. Projects and priorities and things like that the neighborhood associations wanted, and other things. So you could probably buy Jim lunch and he'd tell you how he did it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions for me? Perfect.
I just do have a comment. I wanted to address the publishing of the budget before we have the entire commission. And I'm just concerned that we are putting the cart before the horse, because we had all those options presented to us and we have not. President Goldthorpe pointed out that different commissioners have spoken with other commissioners, et cetera, but we have not had it out here on the dais talking about all the different options. It's just kind of a, not, pardon the pun, foregone conclusion that we're going to take all the foregone. And I think we're kind of walking a fine line here and not quite putting out the proper narrative that would go along with the foregone. And concerning Commissioner McKinney's comment about explain to me about the foregone, that I think illustrates that we need to have that discussion. And I think and thank you for doing your memo to us. I think it's a mathematical construct. Regardless if we do anything at all, property values have skyrocketed so much, people are going to be paying more. We're also not going to have that 10 to 20% property tax relief from that initiative that Governor Little signed with the public safety budget. So people saw that last year as well. That's not going to be there. That's going to go up. Prices are going up. The 24% tax increase that's going to go now in and elevate our base. I think there needs to be a really clear understanding. And my concern about publishing The budget now is, it gives the appearance that there's tacit approval from the elected body here that, you know, this is what we're throwing out there. What do you think? And that's really not the case. It was basically, here are the options. If nobody says anything after the meeting, we're going to go ahead and put the entire foregone in there. And I'm not there. I think that's a bridge too far, and I think we need to have a more in-depth discussion and agreement, and then if it becomes the consensus of the majority of the commission, then, you know, so be it. But in my mind, we're not there. We just have not had the discussion. So that would be my hesitation about seeing this go out. And I understand Commissioner Hansen's going to be back next week, but I just think there's so many variables and so many things to discuss before we go to the nuclear option in my mind. So, and I think there's more to it than just trying to take advantage of a loophole. So I just think we can have some meaningful discussion, and I'm very interested in hearing what the other commissioners have to say about it. And I have a lot of concerns too, and I've been kind of sitting on them, you know, as Mr. Daigle will confirm. I've been saying, when are we going to talk about it? When are we going to have the discussion in Kent as well? So I just think we're putting the cart before the horse here a little bit. And I don't think waiting a week to put it out there for feedback is going to hurt anything. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I tell you the truth, I don't think it necessarily hurts anything, but I do think that the public has a sophisticated enough vocabulary to understand what the word draft means. And everything says draft budget, which means this ain't the budget. This is just something for you to look at. And so that's my only feeling. I know that from some of the same kind of conversations that I've had with some of the same people and others, the longer we wait to put something out, the more hits we're going to take for not being transparent enough, not fully disclosing what we're up to enough, and all those other things. And I would just as soon, even if we had to change what's published every week, give the public something to look at.
Is there a disclaimer that would go with this?
Absolutely.
That, this is not the consensus of the commission. This would mean a 24% tax increase. I mean, are we going to put, you know, I don't want to keep hearing a cup of coffee. You know, we're not raising tax. Just simple back of the napkin math. I think the levy rate is a little immaterial here right now. If you have a $100,000 taxable value, levy rate's 1%, that's $1,000. Property taxes or property values have just skyrocketed. I know my taxable value went just through the roof. So levy rate 0.6, now that $100,000 taxable value is now $200,000 times 0.6, that's $1,200. You're going to pay more. You're going to pay more. There's just no way that you're not going to do that. And I think, I don't want us to be disingenuous. If that's the way we're going to go, I just want to make sure we've got the proper information out there. So if we're just going to throw a budget out there, I want people to understand what it entails, what the ramifications and the consequences are. I think we need to put out there what we've included, just like we would with the 3% new construction or whatever. This budget is looking at incorporating the foregone balance.
President Goldthorpe, Commissioner May, typically in the past, what we do when we put it on the web, you know, in big bold letters, draft budget, and we ask for folks' input. And it's not until we get ready to publish that we get into those specifics. But as I said, we're here to serve you. We will be glad to do anything that the commission directs. So just let us know how you want it to go out there, when you want it to go out there, and we'll be glad to get it out there on the web.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just think it gives a false impression that, and I don't see waiting a week for Commissioner Hansen to get back and have that discussion. So I just think there's a lot to go with this. We've seen it here in the district with people finding better paying jobs. You know, we're talking about an increased COLA. So we're giving it with one hand and taking it back with the other. So there's no way people aren't going to be paying more money. You pay $1 more, you've raised taxes. So this is, like I say, kind of a bridge too far. So I just want to make sure that's what the commission wants to do, and we go forward. So
Mr. President, I completely agree with Commissioner May's sentiments about us having a robust conversation and being very intentional before we publish the draft budget, because whatever is in that draft budget, we still will be assumed by taking it, right? It's going to be harder to change those things because it's already in, it's already printed. However, I think I'm more than willing and happy to have that conversation today. And I don't think that obviously it'd be ideal if Commissioner Hansen was here, but I think he's made himself really clear about where he stands with the foregone in his previous statements. So I don't think that him not being here would really take away from a huge discussion, although it would mean a lot more if he was here. I get that. But if the commission is amenable, I'm willing to have that conversation about where I stand in my thoughts.
Mr. President, can I just say one thing? One thing about it is that since the commission has received this is going to be available to the public. It is a public document. I've received requests for it. We'll be on our website tomorrow for the public open house. I can add a memo on the front of it that says this, again, this is a draft. All of my documents do say draft on it, but I can just reaffirm that this is a draft and it's not the...
And that it's incorporating, taking the entire foregone balance
if
Right.
that's the...
and the 24%, just like we,
I agree. Let me just chime in here if I may. It needs a big, bold disclaimer at the beginning, not only that this is a draft, but I think it ought to specify that this budget assumes that ACHD is taking all of the foregone, but the commission has not decided that question yet. So there's 10 million in here that is what's the right word to say? I was going to say an unfounded assumption, but it's an undecided question that the commission still has to consider and decide.
That's more accurate. Yep.
An undecided question?
Yep. Then unfounded. Yeah.
Right. No, I absolutely, sure.
well, not unfounded, I don't think unfounded.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
That was not the right word.
I think that, I'm thinking of
So
something
in any
else.
case, to point out that is undecided, whether the commission will vote to take some or all of that has not yet been determined. So that needs to be borne in mind when considering this proposed draft budget. And by all means, I think getting it out there sooner rather than later, I think is good. To get as much input as possible and feedback from the public and other interested parties. And because, there's a presumption that with the draft budget, it's going to change in various ways. And so long as it's clear as we publish it that that's the understanding, then, people need to recognize that so that in the future, if we get questions and say, why are you doing this? We can point out and say, well, that was in the draft, that was 2 drafts ago. It's now changed to this, so we're not doing that anymore. And that way we can at least hopefully get everybody on the same page at some point.
Yeah, and Mr. President, to Commissioner McKinney's point, I think to just put it out there and publish it, yes, it's with the agenda, but then when we take that and put it on our website, here's our budget, we'd like your feedback, that gives it a little bit more of an impression of tacit approval. This is kind of what the commission is thinking. So if we can put a specific, detailed disclaimer with that,
Sure.
and then we can have the conversation more in depth, because I know everybody has a lot to say. And
that's
this
a good
is a serious
idea.
move. Pardon me?
It's a good idea because like Christine said, it's now a public document anyway.
Right. So, but I just feel like, and I think that first day last week, I said, where have we highlighted in here that what we're doing? Are we illustrating where it is? And then Director Wong said it's just kind of sprinkled in there throughout. So, but they need to know up front what we're doing, and then we can have further discussion. So if the rest of the commission is, I'd be fine with that as long as we have that disclaimer.
I'll just add it as a completely separate memo that'll go on the front of all of the packet, just as a disclaimer memo. I will say that obviously the sooner the commission can have the conversation, the better for me, so that I can make any appropriate changes. I am a one-person office.
And Christine, and this is no reflection on you
No,
whatsoever.
absolutely.
It's just
I
a conversation that
just
is
as far as being
overdue and we
able
need to
to-
have. But you do a tremendous job, you and Dale and Sherwin, the team. You know how much I think of all of you and everything that you do for the district. So this is just a conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely.
So,
I just want to be able to meet the deadlines.
And if I may, for the rest of the commission, that discussion, I think I'd like to have all 5 of us involved when we have that discussion. I'm not sure
Well,
that.
you know, unfortunately, I can't control who's here.
Right.
But I can promise you this, we will have it next week.
Thank you. I do think, yeah, sooner rather than later.
And just so you know, I'll be remote next week, but I've verified that I will have an internet connection where I will be. So I'll be on the Zoom meeting for next week's discussion.
Okay. Christine's got a lot of writing to do there.
Commissioners, are there any other questions with regard to the budget or the budget books? We know exactly what we're going to be doing in terms of publishing with the memo. So, and we can answer any other questions that you may have.
I will clarify publishing. That's a broad range on what we're doing. So when I talk, we're going to publish this for the public to view, but publication requirements in the
Two totally different
paper
things.
are early August.
So this doesn't go to Simon and Schuster until August.
Right. I don't know who they are, but they'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big publishing company.
Oh.
Well, Commissioners, if we don't have any other questions on that, we can take a break and come back at 1:45. And I'll give a very short director's report, and then we can answer any questions about.
Thank you, Christine. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, me too.
Another year of not stumping Christine.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
Did you bring your truck?
Yeah.
Mike's off.
No questions? I don't have any
No
either.
questions.
So we'll go ahead and turn some time over to Paul Daigle for our director's report.
Just a few items, Commissioners. First of all, on the 29th of July, here in the auditorium at 12 o'clock, we have a joint meeting with the City of Eagle scheduled. We will be serving lunch.
Paul, just for your heads up, I will not be able to make it. Sorry to miss it, you guys.
Would you like to Zoom or?
I have a work conflict. My day
Okay.
job beckons me.
Fair enough. And just as a final reminder, tomorrow night, we do have the open house. It's going to be both the budget and the integrated five-year work plan. It'll be the last time that the budget, it's going to be 5:30
5:30.
here. Hybrid thing, there will be a Zoom. We'll have some staff present. We'll have some of the other staff Zooming to try to make more room here in the auditorium if the public decides that they want to show up. We'll have some computers set up over here on the side too, so they can provide some input. So, just as a heads up, we have an unauthorized roadside memorial over off of Eagle and EasyJet that is attached to one of the poles up there. We've been trying to get in contact with the family. There have been letters returned. There's been nothing no feedback from them. So we have authorized maintenance to go collect that. It's in the wrong spot. You know, it's a hazard right now, a distraction. So I just wanted you to be aware that
Where is EasyJet?
Eagle and EasyJet,
Just north of Victory.
just north of Victory. Yeah, thanks. I was trying to
Okay.
remember if it was north or south of Victory, but just north of Victory. And I want to say, was that the teenager on the skateboard?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the teenager on a skateboard.
Oh,
So,
dear.
but-
The neighbors who have complained about it have contacted me, and I don't know if they mentioned that. And it's been taken down a time or two and then immediately comes back up, so you might expect that.
Yeah, so, and that's all I have by way of a director's report, unless you have some questions for me. The director is having a good time in Hawaii. We've had several pictures of sunrises, sunsets, and there's always a couple of Mai Tais involved, so he's enjoying himself, and he sends greetings.
Does he have any smoke from our fires in Hawaii?
No, but interestingly enough, you know, for those of you that have been around for a while, you know that he's one of the founding fathers of Idaho Patriot Thunder. So he happened to stroll into the Hawaiian Harley-Davidson dealer, and when he mentioned he was from Idaho, they go, "Oh, Idaho Patriot Thunder." So even in Hawaii, they've heard of Idaho Patriot Thunder. So he was pretty impressed. So,
Awesome.
Okay,
well, with that, Commissioners,
back at noon.
you have 12 minutes. Mr. President, it is now 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Paul. Welcome to our Ada County Highway District Commission meeting today. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
Of the United States of America and to the republic for
one nation under God.
indivisible.
Again, thanks and welcome to be here. And we'll begin this meeting by asking for approval, a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll deal with the consent agenda now, and items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by just one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now for the regular agenda, and again, all the regular agenda items are also action items unless noted. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing of resolution number 2301 for parcels of land being a portion of 34th Street and Osage Alley located between East 32nd Street and East 31st Street. And this is a public hearing. I will open that, and we will first hear a presentation from Dave Serdar, Supervisor Right Away. Take it away, Dave.
Thank you, President Goldthorpe, Commissioners. For the record, David Serdar, right-of-way supervisor for ACHD. This is a decision briefing and public hearing for a right-of-way vacation on Osage and 31st Street. ACHD received an application from Riverside Hospitality LLC and River City Annex LLC. The total vacation area encompasses approximately 12,742 square feet. ACHD has received the application fee of $2,500. The appraisal submitted by the applicant included a discount for utility easements and a valuation of $108,000 rounded. ACHD staff does not support the discount including in the appraisal and recommends the full appraisal amount of $216,000. This is consistent with ACH practice in the past when similar utility discounts have been proposed. This is a far overhead of the vacation. The red and yellow are going to Riverside LLC. The green is the portion that is going to River City Annex, which is right there. This is a more close-up view of the vacation. The existing utilities go down Osage. They cut across 31st right about there, and then they go through the parking lot right here. Staff has coordinated with the utility companies and ensured that all necessary easements will be retained. Garden City expressed some concern related to ongoing planning efforts along Chinden. All communications with Garden City have been included in your packet, and including a later email. Staff has reviewed all comments and finds that the vacation request meets state code and ACHD policy. It is staff recommendation that the Commission approve the vacation and adopt and sign Resolution 2301 as applicants have completed all ACHD requirements. The applicant is here and also has a presentation, so I will step aside but be available for any comments. So,
Well, I've got a question for you, and it's just because of my experience with utilities. Seems like every time I've ever bought property, I had to pay extra for the utility access. What's the difference between that and this?
Well, how I see the utilities is that in a road, the utility companies are allowed to put those utilities in without a cost. And I see our job as a part of the public trust. And so, to me, we shouldn't discount those because the public never gets, if I go buy property, I'm buying it that way. And the public never gets that payment. Like normally, if you have a piece of property, like what we do in right-of-way, when we go buy property from people, if we're buying an easement, we pay them 50%, 25%, 90%, whatever the appraiser determines it is. And in a sense, we're paying them the value for the sticks that come out of the property. Every property right's kind of considered a bundle of sticks. Well, in my view, why ACHD doesn't discount is because the public never gets paid for those sticks, if that makes any sense. This is the point they get paid.
Well, Steve's standing behind you for
Probably saying, "Man, he's
clarification
messing this
purposes.
up."
No, I think you're spot on, but one thing I wanted to, under the vacation statute, it expressly reserves to the utilities a continuation of the easements in the vacated public rights of way. So we vacate all kinds of roads and they always have utilities in it. And at the end of the day, the utilities get a stay. And if there's any relocation, it's on something worked out between the applicant and the utility for relocation. But Dave is absolutely right. By law, most of the utilities have a right, free right, to include their facilities in the right-of-way. When we vacate the fee simple. We don't vacate easements. And so really the applicant is taking the place of us as a fee owner. And we have never, in all of my time, I've never seen a discount of any vacation, and I don't know of any jurisdiction that has over utility easements.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense. At least that answers my question in my own mind. Any questions from the rest of the commission? Okay, then we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Dave. You're welcome. So good afternoon. My name is Kristen McNeil. I'm with the Land Group, and I'm representing the applicant today. So, as Dave mentioned, this is a zoomed-in image of the area, with the area in green going to River City Annex, and the other portion would be going to Riverside Hospitality. The purpose of this vacation is for the applicant for Riverside Hospitality to create a safe and walkable campus and to beautify the area. So obviously, as you can see in this aerial view, getting rid of that as a weedy alleyway will give them opportunity to do so. And we are in agreement with the staff report and staff recommendation, of course. Our client has been in communication with Garden City and will continue to do so regarding any future development in the area. And with that, thank you for your time, and I respectfully request your approval today, and we'll stand for any questions.
I got a question for you, and it goes along with my last one. Do you have any idea, at least from the applicant's point of view, how those utilities damage the value of the property?
My understanding in terms of the appraisal that was done, that's their standard thing when they do appraisals, they discount for utilities. In terms of the applicant's viewpoint of that, I haven't actually discussed that with them. They are hoping to underground those utilities in the future at their cost to kind of help with that beautification. But other than that, we haven't had much discussion about that. They are in agreement with the proposal as it is.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Well, so let me be clear then. Is the applicant in agreement with the price point that the district has proposed?
Well, they would obviously greatly enjoy if the discounted price was accepted, but they are in agreement with what ACHD has presented.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I just have a question for Dave.
yes,
For
just a
Dave,
second.
sorry.
For Dave, okay.
Dave, could you remind me, what did Jenna from Garden City say? She said she supported it, but there was another thing that she wanted to make sure stayed the same or something like that. Is that top of mind by chance?
President Goldthorpe, Commissioner Pickering, in the last email that we had from Jenna, they have had a meeting with the applicant. It is my understanding that the applicant is okay for a walkway. We, as ACH staff, she seemed to indicate in that email that they would like us to preserve some pedestrian and also some automobile access, which that's kind of the definition of a road. So staff's not necessarily supportive of those two, but my understanding is that they're working on it with the applicant, and maybe Kristen can clarify that, but also that at this time that's not necessary for where ACHD sits, and so that's something for the applicant and the city to work out during some kind of future process, because they haven't submitted a development plan for this yet, or redevelopment plan, excuse me. So
Thank you, I appreciate that.
you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, because this is a public hearing, we'll open it up for any other comments or questions or testimony. Stacy, do we have anyone signed up besides the applicant? Nobody on Zoom?
No.
All right, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and the matter is properly before the commission for a motion and discussion.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2301 for parcels of land being a portion of 31st Street and Osage Alley located between East 32nd Street and East 31st Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, that ends our regular agenda. We do have some folks signed up for some public communications, and they all seem to deal with the same subject, the blue liquidant dye in our salt that we spread for the wintertime. And we have made a decision that might make you happy. We're not going to be using it anymore when there's any particular chance of any of the chemical compounds or components of that blue liquidant to get in the Boise River. So we'll be using it still out in the desert in the southwest Ada County and places like that through the Cloverdale maintenance yard, but we won't be using it here.
And
Now-
eventually it'll be diluted.
And it's according to what we get from, quote, the experts that the dilution is so small that there wouldn't be any chance of any pollution occurring or impacts to livestock, humans, pets, or anything else. Is that correct, Paul? All right, here he comes. I have to make sure I say things right.
Commissioner, yes, we've been told that the chances are slim, but just to clarify one thing, we won't be using it going forward. We will be further diluting it. Wherever we use it, but henceforth, we will not be using it anymore.
So,
And I think, if I may, just to clarify, the way in which it's being diluted is this: the salt with the blue dye in it is going to be mixed, what,
With clean salt?
50/50 with clean salt,
We do not have
An exact
an
ratio?
exact ratio.
Okay.
We were asked to mix it with some clean salt or sand, just to further dilute it and spread it out.
And it's going to be used in upland and western parts of the county?
Away from any
Away
rivers,
from any-
streams.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Steve.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's only with the existing stockpile that we have
Right.
going
No
forward.
more, going
Once we've
forward-
used that, we're done.
Okay, all right.
Now, before I call for the folks to come up and give a little testimony, I also wanted to let you know a little bit of the history of the blue liquidant, because I've been here long enough to have, and I say this with tongue in cheek, this is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't deals, because we were getting accused of not even putting salt down because people couldn't see it on the roads. Okay, we just spend a whole lot of money and hide it, and don't use it. But, and I was just kidding there, record. But I'd love to hear from you. Laura Sheely, are you here? Thanks for being here, and love to hear you. If you'd tell us who you are and where you live.
That is great news, what you just said.
I thought you'd think so.
Thank you, commissioners, for letting me come and talk. I won't say maybe nearly as much as I was going to, but that is wonderful news
I
that you're
still
going
need your
to.
name and address.
So my name is Laura Sheely. I live at 2153 East Solitude Court in Boise. I'm part of a group of four of us residents in the East End who observed the blue die this last winter and have suffered some from health effects from it. Some people are very sensitive to that. And of course, great news that it won't go into the river or into the sewer system. That was a huge concern. So bravo to you guys. I won't read the letter. You had a packet from us. You've seen it. What I found interesting during this process, because I had never heard of blue liquidant ever, and as we dug into it, we learned a few things about that it does have toxicity, and of course it does depend on how much it's diluted partly, but it was an interesting lesson for me. And anyway, this document is on ACHD website under winter maintenance. So some of that data is there for your maintenance guys. I want to applaud them because they really did respond to us this last winter. They got back to us, and I think as far as they knew, they were using, an approved substance that was okay. So it really is just delightful news that you're going to end the use of that once this is used up. I don't have anything more to add, but I have two other people that might like to say a few things just to add to the education of it.
And we'd love to hear from them. One of the things that we pride ourselves on here at the Highway District is being responsive. And that is actually what our executive team pretty much insists on, especially when folks like you are so respectful and conscientious and everything else in the way you approach us with what you consider a problem. And
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for that.
That makes me feel good that you're responsive, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Now we have Betsy Clean. All right.
My name is Betsy Clenny, and I signed in with my address. Do I need to repeat it?
Yes.
Okay, 2279 East Solitude Court in Boise, 83712, East End.
So did you like the announcement?
Oh, did you see me almost fall off the chair? Yeah, so this was an attachment. I don't know, have you had time to look at our packet?
We did.
So we were trying to give suggestions of what other states or cities do. And this is Seattle, and we realized it was in the wrong format. So I made a copy for each of you that might be helpful.
Have you given up one to Jennifer, our maintenance deputy director?
Yeah, I made extras, so
Cool.
keep them all, please. We also, we put a lot of time and thought into our presentation today. And we.
So I took the thunder right out of the whole presentation.
Well, then I just wanted you to appreciate what and we might have some useful information for the future.
You do,
So,
sure.
Okay, so we had, in the past 2 years, it's just started showing up, the blue dye on the roads, and I, for one, was getting very ill. And we were calling, and the maintenance department's always very responsive, but we got frustrated because we didn't know what it was. And then your safety data sheet is online, so we read that. And a lot of residents, you know, Boise's a small town, all over Ada County started calling one of us or somebody that knew us. So we had photos, and I just wanted you to see these.
These are the same that you sent.
Just it's showing the dark blue
pass them down?
by the
Okay.
drains
Thank you,
that were
Stacy.
going in, and when it wasn't snowing, when it was drizzling, you know, and not on steep hills as we were told the protocol was. It was on flats. You know, cul-de-sacs were getting doused. This was in not just East End. It was in. Let me check my notes here. It was in the Highlands, Eagle, around the hospital, St. Al's, St. Luke's, similar kinds of pictures.
This one's my favorite picture I saw before.
It's your favorite one? It's pretty, yeah.
A little dark, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little dark. So anyway, that's why we got involved. And we looked at this data sheet, and we didn't understand it. We didn't, you know, we're not scientists. And we enlisted some outside help. And I have some, there's a notes for you to read. Huh. Where are my notes? To try to make reading the data sheet a little more easy. Oh, they're under here. Okay, and I just wanted to touch on some points that we learned that I thought maybe you would find helpful. So this blue dye is used as a color marker, and it had nothing to do with de-icing. That was the first thing we learned. And then we asked, well, why do we need a color marker? You know, so that the drivers won't salt the road twice. And, you know, what we were seeing was, why can't, is that hard? Why don't, you know, it's not like we're in New York City. Can they just go out and do it once, and then if they need to do it again? I mean, do we need a color marker? It just seemed like added cost. And that's a theory that's foreign to Boise. You know, we've lived here since, gosh, 89, and never have seen it before. You know, we did just fine before with plows and a little salt and some sand. You know, parents were calling us their children couldn't make snowballs or snowmen. The pets were wheezing and having to go to the vet. I mean, this is serious. Brakes needed repair. It was getting driven into people's garages, caked on. It just, you know, we had to do that with a snow shovel, get it out of our garage. So it was, you know, this was and the more we researched, the more concerned we became. We learned that the chemical vanadium, what's a heavy metal actually, is on EPA's cleanup site list, and that was alarming. It's known as a hazardous and toxic substance, and it shouldn't be near water or soil. So the more we learned, the more concerned we got. And that's why we thought, you know, we need to just talk to you as a group and let you know, because you're all very responsible. And then what I was supposed to do was go through the data sheet and just a few points. And you have the notes for the data safety data sheet on your packet. I don't know if you read it.
Since we got your first email, I think all of us have.
Okay, good. So you know what are my notes. Throughout the data sheet, it says, you know, you need to wear protective clothing for your eyes and your body. Don't let it near water or soil. Let's see. Just the responses are listed under the EPA: vomiting, abdominal pain, headaches, tremors, dizziness, coughing, shortness of breath. And, you know, the one thing we learned, I'm going to conclude now. I really cut off my presentation. We realized that there didn't seem to be for this product any environmental filters or health filters and for protection to our citizens or the Boise River. And so in the future, maybe you could have community outreach. I'll volunteer if you that's probably the last person you want, but anyway, you know, just to maybe have a review and just do a more thorough research before something is put on the roads. And also just, we put two papers in there. One was from the state of New Hampshire and one from Seattle. And we were told, and we looked around for other options. We were told when we would call the maintenance department that it's used all over the U.S. and we could not find one city or one state that used it. We couldn't hear it from ACHD. And a couple other states, Wisconsin and Kansas, do exactly what Seattle and New Hampshire do. That New Hampshire paper is quite thorough. It's very good. And maybe, you know, Boise can go, or Ada County can go back to basics, you know, just plow. And, you know, we don't want car accidents either, but I don't know. I was never in one in the snow, and I drive up to Books Basin all the time. So I wonder if we could go back to basics. And, you know, we are snow people, and what's wrong with snow? It doesn't have to be blue. It's beautiful as it is. The end. And we have one more.
Thank you very much. And that one more is Sheila Grisham. Sheila, welcome.
Good afternoon, President Goldthorpe and Commissioners. My name is Sheila Grisham. I live at 1204 East State Street, Boise, 83712. And this afternoon, I am speaking on behalf of the ENA, the East End Neighborhood Association. And I just want to thank you. I had this little spiel, but now I don't need it. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this group and their concerns and for following through. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
I only have one request of the three of you, and that is from now and for as long as you live, please tell people we actually are salting the roads.
You know, this isn't my first rodeo with ACHD, and I will say that you guys you follow through.
We try.
So it's a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Yes.
I just wanted to add my thanks to the ladies that came in to speak to us and brought this to our attention. I really applaud your efforts and your awareness and concern for the community at large. And, you know, it takes all of us. And so for bringing this to our attention, and I think it's the best decision. So I think we can all celebrate that. And again, thank you for bringing this forward to us and being here today. Thank you.
Anything else? Since there is no one else here to give public opinion or public input, the meeting is adjourned. A lot of fun when you have good news before they even come up. Uh-oh.
So the resolution's coming down, but this is the